We were like, they're gonna give us 5 gigs. I'll give you my left arm for 5 gigs. Hi, I'm Bronson Taylor, a serial entrepreneur. I'm the CEO of Growth Geeks. I'm the host of Growth Hacker TV. I'm the author of the definitive guide to growth hacking. If you can't tell, I'm obsessed with growth, and today I'm going to teach you how to growth hack your business. Now we're going to talk about product tactics for getting visitors. Here's why this is so cool. We're actually using the product itself to bring in more visitors. Now think about that. Back in the day, traditional marketers never had the opportunity to let their products bring in more users. Like imagine if you were a traditional marketer and you were selling like cans of soup. How do you get a can of soup to bring in more people to buy cans of soup? Super difficult to do, right? But like we are able to put this psychology and this technology into our products so we can make our SaaS products actually go and sell themselves, get more people into the top of the funnel. And as growth hackers, we have access to the product. We get to shape the product. We get to be a part of the product design and development. So we get to do things in the product so that it can go and sell itself. Now, the first product tactic I want to talk about for using the product to bring in its own visitors is network invitations. You've all seen this. I'm just reminding you of something you can take advantage of. You can have it so that in your product, if it works for the kind of product you have, people can invite their entire contact list. You've seen that. You download an app on the phone. Do you want to invite everyone in your contact list? Now, usually I put no, but if it's something I actually do want to invite them to, I'll hit yes. Recently, I lived in Florida and we had to flee because of the hurricanes. There was this app that let us communicate using something besides the cell towers. So my wife downloaded it. It says, do you want to share with our contacts? She hits yes. They get it. They share with their contacts. It was this massive growth of this app that filled a need that we needed right then because they use the ability to invite your contact list. You can also have them invite people from your email. You can have them invite people on your social networks. Do you want to invite all your LinkedIn friends? Do you want to invite your Facebook friends? And yes, you'll need an engineer to tap into those APIs. You'll need an engineer to do that. But as the growth hacker, you can still orchestrate it. You can still know that you want to share things using connections like that. A couple companies that have done this extremely well. One, Spotify. You go into Spotify and it's so easy to share it with Facebook. Do you want to share every song you're listening to on Facebook? Again, I usually put no. A lot of other people put yes. So on Facebook, you're seeing, oh, this person's listening to this song on Spotify. Well, what does that do? Now they click on that in Facebook, they go to their own Spotify, and now Spotify itself as a product has brought in more users to the top of Spotify as a product. That's incredible. Another company that does this really well is LinkedIn. They're like the growth hacking OGs. They're the original ones that did this well. They actually made it so that when you signed up to LinkedIn, it said, do you want to invite everyone in your email list? And that was back when that was still a okay thing to do. And people hit yeah, and it invited all their people in their email contacts. That was the original way that LinkedIn grew. So just start thinking, how can you ask people to share, through the networks they're in about your app? And that's a quick way for the product to bring in traffic to the product. The next one that I want to talk about that's a product tactic for the product bringing in its own visitors is social sharing, right? How is it that you can make it so that one click they can share this on their social networks? A company that does this really well, or actually an industry that does this really well, are the large blogs. Any large blog you go to, TechCrunch, whatever, they're going to have a way for you to share every article on your favorite social media site, right? So you can share their article on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever, because they want you to share their content. Another thing that's becoming more and more popular is e-commerce sites are letting you share product photography of their e-commerce wares on Pinterest because they know that people are browsing Pinterest not just for inspiration, but also for buying decisions and to find things to purchase. So e-commerce sites are starting to make it easier and easier to share product photos on Pinterest. They're using the product tactic of social sharing so the product brings in more traffic to the product. Another product tactic that I want to go over is API integrations. Now, I'll go ahead and give a disclaimer. This one's geeky, this one's more difficult, but it can be really powerful. So first, what is an API? An API is an application programming interface. What that means in layman's terms is that every application generates a lot of data. And if they let you, they can create an API where you can tap into that data. You can make your application talk to their application as long as there's an application programming interface. It interfaces two programs together. What that means is, depending on the limits of their API, you can pull data out of their system, you can put data into their system, and you can do some really cool things between two different user bases. Now, an example that I like that does this really well is Nike. Nike integrates with a couple other apps. They use the APIs of Spotify, so they're able to pull in songs from Spotify into their app. But the one I really want to highlight, because it fits this tactic, is they integrate with Facebook. So when I go for a run on my Nike app, and I set it and say, I want to run 3 miles today, it says, do you want to turn cheers on? Now here's what cheers are. If I turn cheers on, it notifies people on Facebook that I'm going for a run. And it notifies them at certain increments. He's 1 mile into his run. Hit this button to cheer for him. And when they hit that button on Facebook, in my earphones, it literally starts cheering because people on my Facebook are thumbs upping the API integration that Nike made with Facebook. Now people on Facebook are learning about the Nike app because of that API integration. The Nike app is bringing in users to the Nike app. The product is marketing itself. If you're trying to get ideas about which APIs exist, then go to programmableweb.com. At Programmable Web, you're going to be able to see basically all the APIs in the world. So you're going to be able to say, okay, these are the open public APIs that I have access to. How can I use them to bring in more traffic to the top of my product? And you just have to get creative. I mean, there's thousands of APIs in the world giving you access to thousands of different kinds of data and different kinds of users. And depending on what your product is, you'll connect those dots in different ways. But go to Programmable Web and just see what's possible. Now, the next tactic I want to share with you that's a product tactic for getting visitors from the product itself is incentives. And by far, the king of this is Dropbox. If you used Dropbox back in the day, you know what it was like to sign up and then have them say, if you just share this with a friend, you'll get 5 more gigs free, or whatever amount they were giving away. I mean, we couldn't click share fast enough. We were like, they're gonna give us 5 gigs. I'll give you my left arm for 5 gigs. Of course I'll email my friends. And so you just start emailing anyone, sign up for Dropbox, and you start racking up all these free gigs. What'd they do? They incentivize their users to invite people into the product. The product had an incentive program that got people back in the top of the funnel from the product itself. So this is what it means to use the 3 Ps. You get to pull people in by incentivizing them. You get to do that in a couple different ways, using your own audience, using a leveraged audience. You get to push people in with more aggressive efforts like paid traffic and direct sales and affiliates. And now lastly, the 3rd P, you get to use the product itself to bring people into the top of the funnel for your product. And if you're wondering what industries this works for, it works for almost all industries. As long as you have something of value to the consumer that you can give away, but that thing of value doesn't actually cost you that much, you can use it as an incentive. So Uber gives away free rides, Lyft's give away free rides, Amazon will give you, an incentive. If you sign up for Prime Now, you'll also get this. Just all these different things, you can be incentivized for sharing it with other people. You end up getting more from the product. To use the product tactics that I've talked about, you're probably going to have to hire your first engineer. So if you want to use APIs, if you want to use social sharing, if you want to use incentive programs, you might be able to find some apps that help you get there without an engineer. But for the most part, it's going to be difficult. You need to find somebody that really understands programming, especially for the API one. So just keep that in mind as you consider these tactics. Now, this may not seem like a growth hack because it's not technologically heavy, I'll admit that. At the same time though, it is psychologically heavy and there is a lot of product that goes into it. If you design a product well, which is technology, then you can get the benefits of word of mouth. So I still wanted to include it in this course for you. So here's a couple things I want to say. You can't control word of mouth, but you can give yourself the best chance possible to take advantage of word of mouth. You can't make people talk about what you've done, but you can do something that's worth talking about. That's what you do control. So here's some things to keep in mind. One, create something simple. People usually share simple things. You don't try to share super complex things with your friends. It's just too hard. There's too many details. You might slip up or mess up or get confused. You share simple things. So the simpler your product is, the more it can be shared. Also, we like to share beautiful things. In general, people don't like to talk about or share ugly things. So make the thing you're doing beautiful, and there's a better chance of it being shared. Make what you're doing relieve a pain. If something relieves a pain in someone's life, they are so happy that they no longer have this pain that they'll talk about it. Like, I used to have a lot of neck pain, and I actually found some stretches that a friend showed me that took away my neck pain. So now I share those stretches with everyone who has neck pain because they really help me. You share the things that take away your pain. Also, you share things that make you look cool. Is there a way that your product can make people feel cool and look cool, so then when they share it, they get to feel that way? Also, people share things that are emotional. This goes back to all those psychological triggers that I talked about. Make them feel something. If they feel a strong emotion, they'll talk about it. If you make them feel nothing with your product, they will not share it in word of mouth. Also, make your product fun. People like a well-placed joke. People like a sense of humor. People are drawn to a product that doesn't always take itself too seriously. And so be willing to have a little bit of fun with your product. Also, people share unique things. If you're the 10th person to do a product like the one you have, they're not going to talk about it. You're the 10th person to do it. But if you're doing something unique that's noteworthy, then it has the chance to be shared by word of mouth. And then lastly, do something surprising. What can you do in your product that they weren't expecting that will make them share it through word of mouth? Again, to use Dropbox as another example, their original intro video that showed off what Dropbox was filled with Easter eggs that were really surprising. So even though they look like they were just dragging files around to show you how the file system worked, if you looked at the names of the folders and the names of the files, there was all these memes and inside jokes and references to things that only certain people would get. And it was just chocked full of Easter eggs. So it got all these views, and then they got this massive pre-launch sign-up list, and now we know the story of Dropbox. And so do something that's a little bit surprising. And if you do something like this, simple, beautiful, pain-relieving, it makes them look cool, it has emotion, it's fun, it's unique, it's surprising. If you do stuff like that, it gives it a much better chance of being spread through word of mouth, which is a way that your product markets itself. Not all these product tactics will work for you, but some of them might. I want you to start brainstorming what product tactics that I've talked about really make sense for your brand. For instance, if you say that doing incentives would make sense for you, what are the incentives? How much do you give away? Who do you give it away to? All those kinds of things. Really start working through how to make your product market itself.
The Foundr mission is to help you create an ass-kicking business and help you learn straight from the mouths of world-class founders. Get your free printed edition of Foundr magazine featuring Sir Richard Branson. Just cover shipping and handling at foundr.com/Branson.